Welcome to the Centre Court Executive MBA Festival with Poets and Quants. My name is Matt Symonds, and with John Byrne, the editor-in-chief at P&Q, the two of us host many of these business school events. Perhaps you've seen some of the specialized masters festivals we host, the full-time MBA festival that we host. But why should the 22-year-olds and the 28-year-olds have all of the fun? Because, of course, we never stop learning, and there are so many ways to channel your curiosity, your personal and professional development. And so over the sessions of today, we'll be bringing in executive MBA programs from the top programs in Europe and the top programs in the US. I mentioned the top programs in Europe. We're going to start there, giants in the international business education space. And so on our theme of where an executive MBA can take your career, it's a real pleasure to welcome Kai Kuganes. And Kai is the Director of Leadership Programs for Recruitment and Admissions at London Business School. And joining him, Jean-Amiel Jourdan, who is the Senior Executive Director of HEC Talents, so from HEC Paris. Welcome, both of you, pioneers, as we have our first EMBA festival. We'll be talking, of course, about that international dimension and the different programs. I did just want to start with one comment, Jean-Amiel, that I love on your LinkedIn profile. You talk about a school where we unlock a world of opportunities so that all HEC talent pursues their life purpose. Perhaps that theme of purpose is something very much on the mind of individuals now 10, 15, 20 years into their careers. So starting there, Jean-Emmanuel, let's talk a little bit about HEC Paris, one of the top ranked schools, but not just Paris, so much more. So tell us about the school and the program that you offer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt, for having me, and really nice to meet you, Kai, and being part of this panel. So HEC Paris was created in 1881. So we're a pretty old institution. It's a historic French business school that today is one of the leaders in international management education. We have about 4.5 thousand students and participants on campus every year from more than 150 countries. And we go from the pre-experience talent pool of masters to the MBAs, the EMBAs, and then the PhDs. Quick description of our EMBA program, offered in two different formats, week-long or weekend. The students who choose the week-long format have the option to start their EMBA in September or January here in Paris, in Jouy-en-Josas, which is about 15, 17 kilometers from downtown Paris, or they can choose to start in February on our campus in Doha, Qatar. The week-long format is delivered every 2 to 3 months, and EMBA students will fly in from all over the world to attend our class. For the students who choose the weekend format, they can start the program in March with classes every other week on Fridays and Saturdays. About what you were saying, that purpose, we'll go back to this because I think it's the most important part of your thinking if you're considering an EMBA program.
It's a great place to start. You talk about that international dimension. Perhaps many individuals whose original undergraduate studies were in a country that they grew up in, and suddenly with HEC and with London Business School, it's the world in your classroom. That's equally true, Kai, for LBS. So tell us a little bit about not just the EMBA, there's also perhaps the Sloan program to include in there.
Yes, thank you guys, and great to be here today. So LBS is a postgraduate school, and we have over 9 or 10 programs that we deliver at the school. And the best way we section this is into early career, mid-career, and executive careers. I take care of the executive career portfolio, and so that includes our executive MBA, which we do in London and Dubai. We also have a partnership with Columbia Business School, which we call EMBA Global. And then we have the Sloan program, which is our full-time 1-year masters. What's distinct, I guess, about our executive MBA program, I guess, apart from the global hubs that we operate in, London, Dubai, and New York, is, like you said, that global mindset. So we attract a lot of commuters, travelers from all over the world. We were doing a little bit of analysis recently about the commutable distances where our alumni come from. And we had a staff member that visited every country in the world only using LBS alumni. So I think that's a good anecdote where our alumni spread lies. But specifically within the Executive MBA program, it attracts a lot of different people. A lot of it is career orientated. So some people are all about accelerating in their career. Some people are looking at transitioning. Some people are looking at entrepreneurial stuff, and some people are still considering all of those options and more. And so that's what unifies everyone's journey, I guess. But but a lot of them come to the school for one or more of those reasons. We've been around for a long time. Our campus in Dubai has been there for, I think, over 15 years. And our hub really in London is our campus in Regent's Park in London. The biggest difference, I think, is between the Executive MBA programs itself are, I guess, the format. EMBA London is a weekend format program. EMBA Dubai is a block week format, so you take a whole week once per month to do so. Same with our EMBA Global program. So a week in London and a week in New York is that format. And our Sloan is a full-time program that people do full-time. So they take a sabbatical from work, or they take a career break and they invest in their education full-time.
Right. Now, you both have fantastic Masters in Management programs for early career. There's the Masters in Finance. The MBA, I once wrote an article about the over 30s applying to an MBA that has been read by 315,000 people. So not everybody was 26, knew that they wanted the full-time MBA. So perhaps, Jean, when we think about that personal journey of your personal and professional development, what level of experience are you typically looking for in the Executive MBA? I mean, do you have a typical age range that you think is appropriate?
Well, I'm not in the age business either. I will never discriminate in terms of against age. In terms of years of experience, it's 8 years minimum experience for our EMBA program. We always have the question about, is it the right time? I don't think there is not an exact right time for everybody. It really depends on where you come from, where you intend to go, goals and the takeaways from the program. The right time is when it feels right for you. In terms of the pedigree, so to speak, of our participants, they are already, some of them are already top managers, and some are at the director's level, all with a goal about the C-suite, obviously. And those who are not at those level, we have identified a high potential in terms of where the EMBA program can take them. We look holistically at each applicant and we'll appreciate the quality of each profile.
And just to follow up on that, Jean, the idea of perhaps a minimum of 8 years experience, does that then fundamentally change the sort of classroom discussions that you're having, because you're surrounded by individuals in the classroom that each are bringing 8, 10, 12, 15 years of real boots on the ground experience?
Yeah, so the diversity is our keyword here. Diversity of sectors, diversities of geographies. We have more than 60 nationalities represented. And so it's one of the, I would say, hidden benefits, and I'm sure it's the same for Kai, the hidden benefits of the EMBA program. It is not only you're going to grow personally and you're going to develop your leadership skills to a higher level, but on top, you're going to build that sub-community of very smart individuals coming from very different geographies, very different sectors, and that will make you a more agile leader, a more agile problem solver, and this is the real value of, I think, what we are offering.
Right. Kai, same question for you, and I'm sure similarly, but also then looking at experience that can be so eclectic. People from the Fortune 500, you might have, self-starting entrepreneurs. So as they ask themselves, oh, I should have gone to business school years before now, how do you like to then talk to them about it being the right time for them?
Yeah, I mean, we look at candidates, again, also like Jean is in a holistic way. The pillars that we look at are your track record, the things that you've done, your current performance, the things you're currently doing, and then your future potential, what you might go on to do. I think a common mistake about the EMBA program is people assume naively that it might be a part-time MBA. but we have a distinct identity to our EMBA programs in the sense that we call it an Executive MBA, mainly because many of the people in the audience would have done an undergraduate degree, and that's the information kind of flows from faculty to you in the audience as an undergraduate student. Once you join the Executive MBA programs, it's also about that dynamic conversation in the classroom, your classroom contribution from your sector and expertise. So that's why diversity is a huge factor for us, because you can learn in any one topic from strategy, operations, finance. You then learn how that executes across multiple sectors and multiple levels. So when we are looking at admitting candidates into our EMBA programs, we're looking at that classroom contribution as well. So it's not just actually what you're going to take from LBS, it's also what you're going to contribute. And then also we have a lifelong view. So we believe you're going to be a student for 2 years, but you're going to be an alumni for the lifetime. And so, where does this play into that journey? Another common mistake, I think, is about considering MBAs as a golden ticket to their goal. They think of doing an MBA because they maybe missed out early in their career, and they think they may have suffered, and they think of this MBA as a golden ticket. We try to reframe that in the interview process. We try to say, it's probably your story plus the MBA equals what, and that's the equation we're trying to get to at the interview. Is what does the MBA? How does that investment in the MBA add to your career capital? So your connections, your brand, your ideas, your network, and what does that result in? Because at the Executive MBA level, as you're got more career momentum, your individual set of opportunities and threats are obviously slightly different. The employment market's different, entry points are different, and you've got a different ticket to the table. So I guess those are the more nuanced conversations we have to have.
Right. So no golden ticket, and certainly both of you will be expecting, your students again to fully contribute in those discussions. Jean-Amiel, there's every chance that maybe they have kids. Certainly they have levels of senior responsibility, and now they're juggling work, family, and their studies all over again. Is that then reflected in options? You mentioned having the weekend option or having the modular, 1 week every few weeks. Does that sort of flexibility then, really help them to integrate their studies?
Correct. Before I answer that, what I liked about our previous words is that sense of duty to themselves and to the world. And I think this is a really important message. It is that there is no golden ticket. There is no magic wand to get to the C-suite, and it's really something you owe to yourself. It means a very high investment, which comes with sacrifices. You're right to mention that. So yeah, the formats are very flexible, and this is something we want to keep offering. And then within each format, and I can tell about it specifically for the personal and professional development plan that we offer, the career curriculum that we offer, we always try to be the most flexible possible. In the post-COVID world, yes, when they are on campus, our participants expect the face-to-face connection, but at the same time, they have lives, they have families, they have other activities, and so for that, we offer a good chunk of our career curriculum remote, and the same for the career coaching. It could be face-to-face, it could be remote, wherever they are in the world. And so we want to make it very smooth because we know how demanding their lives can be.
Yeah, well, with that sense of duty and a commitment that they're then making to their personal development, if we go back, Kai, 20, 25 years ago, we perhaps saw more candidates that might be financed by their companies, but I mean, there are a lot of self-sponsored candidates. So do you feel that they've reached that point of saying, if I'm really going to make a difference, this is the right time, I'm going to make that investment in myself?
Totally. I think we've seen definitely a generational shift between the relationship between employer and employee. I mean, if we go back in the day, someone would have stayed their entire life within one company. Our parents might have changed once or twice. When we look at our youngest cohort, they've done 10 or 12 internships before they've even joined our youngest program. So the rate of change in the world is changing. That leads to opportunities. So that means that people are are changing jobs, getting salaries, getting more fulfilling careers, which is great. The cost of that is employment insecurity. I think the investment from companies into people has definitely shifted, and there might be a different expectation on that. So when they do invest in employees, sometimes that comes with a degree of golden handcuffs or ability to retain that talent going forward. So we're starting to see the landscape shift where a lot of people are choosing to self-fund, and the question is, when is the right time to self-fund? I think everyone in the room here is agreeing that the MBA is a right idea. It becomes which institution and which is right for you. But ultimately, I think the way I look at it is around the shelf life of what you currently know. So everyone in the audience, in their industries and their roles, what they currently know and the network they currently have has ultimately a potential shelf life of how long that's going to be valuable for. And I do believe that the way the world's changing, that all of us are going to have to invest in ourselves at some point. And the question is when. So do you do it in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? Do you do short courses? For many people that come to LBS, they've made the conclusion that they want the investment now. So they're going to invest in their career, their network, their knowledge now, and then front load that investment so that their next generation of their career, the next chapter of their career, is then starting with investment in all of those aspects. So I think when people think about timing, I don't think there is ever a right time sometimes. I think it is scary when you think about the cost, when you think about the time, balancing work and life, family. And just to add an anecdote of our own, we've got lots of people that are having kids, pregnant on the course, people getting their first marriage. We have one funny anecdote, which is we had a father is on the course, his daughter's on the course, and the daughter's pregnant. So the baby is in LBS lectures before it's even born. We're excited for the delivery of that baby. But a lot of people have very time-poor commitments. And I think, though, as Jean-Emile said, I think it's about ring fencing or potentially setting boundaries around your investment and finding the time to put that in, and then the dividends that come from doing that. I think that's really where it is. It's not easy. I do find that our executive MBAs are time poor, but over the long run, I think they've made the calculation that this is the right time for them to start now rather than today.
And that time management and commitment.
Yes, sorry, Jean-Emile.
I just wanted to say, to rebound on what Kai just said, that time management and commitment are really what employers are looking for, and it's a testimony to how these participants are committed to their career.
I mean, Jean-Emile, the idea that, of course, all of the learning, you can then bring it back into the work environment because modular, flexible programs. Yep. Kai has spoken about making an investment. How do you like to frame the idea of ROI? We typically think of it in financial terms. There's that, but there must be so many other more intangible dimensions that that your EMBA students are benefiting from.
Correct. So we can stop 1 second about the end of careers. And that's why we have renamed ourselves with the HEC, the talents word, because although our participants are experienced and have already reached a few summits, so to speak, they keep climbing. And so it is to the question, why should I go back to school? Is it the right time? Yes, because it's a concept of lifelong learning. And the more changes we're experiencing right now with AI and so many disruptions, if you want to keep leading, you need to have those skills. So in terms of skills, leadership skills, definitely advanced business knowledge, problem-solving skills, strategic thinking. We already mentioned time management and commitment, and that continuous learning and enhanced communication skills. But I would say that's a given. The intangible, it's what we already, I think, touched upon a little bit, is the network. That's definitely the discrete sub-communities I was referring to. We're very lucky. We work for these amazing institutions with great alumni communities, but what we have seen is that the feedback that we get from EMBA participants 2-3 years after graduating is when they say, wow, it's not only the big numbers for us, let's say 70,000 alumni, but it's the fact that they've been able to enter sub-communities that have been very helpful for their professional growth, for developing their own ventures, etc. So the network, and I would say the networks, plural, are very, very important. We mentioned the sense of duty, and I think when it comes to purpose, I think we are seeing more and more of our EMBA participants committed to make the world a better place. And then the last thing is that sense of self-confidence. And I think those are the three things that I would outline in terms of intangible, beyond the skills that we all know about.
Right. Jean-Amiel has talked about the network. Kai, and I imagine both programs, you've got your base in London or in Paris, but we've talked about Qatar, you've got a campus in Dubai. So there's the international dimension, but presumably also, if they want to connect with your Masters in Management students and find out how to do AI prompts on GPT, do you make sure that they can also connect with other students from other programs?
This is the beauty of a campus, I think. I know there's a lot of like online versions of degrees available. We actually get a lot of people that have applied for online only stuff and then actually come and actually look for in-person type qualifications. I think that's down to the nature of how we build relationships and how we build communities, and some of those things are still quite hard to disrupt. So there is a shared journey, there's an individual journey. The shared journey is, again, people are time poor and they can come on for their block weeks or for their weekend format programs. But there's so much on the table for people to take if they wanted to put that investment. So they wanted to join student clubs, special interest groups, events, guest speaking, networking events. So you can really align with your special interests. If you're interested in tech, investing, asset management, real estate, and startup entrepreneurship, you can really pick that thread and run with it. And if you have the time, you can do as much as you like. Sometimes it's about, I guess, managing the sweet shop, I guess, is to see, what is right for you and what is right for you at this time. But like, as Jean-Amiel said, we have a lifelong view on alumni. So that's why alumni community is so connected and so rich, is because once you've gone through this experience, you also have access to people that have been through this journey already. I like to think of people, we are a product of the people we spend the most time with. And so when you're in a classroom with 50 other people also growing and learning and developing, you develop very rich relationships there. And that's just the nucleus. That's just your classroom experience. Then you have the streams. So we have 2 intakes. We have a September intake and a January intake, both in London and Dubai. So then your expanded network starts to become a bit more fuller. And then you've got the alumni network. And then you've got the other programs, people that have done, like I said, early career or mid-career qualifications at LBS. So yeah, we also operate a lifelong learning model. We invite alumni back to attend audit lectures. We have alumni hubs all around the world. So a useful thing of having a business school which has a good international network is, if you ever wanted to move country or a job, there is almost a ready-made network of candidates that you can reach out to and get an insight into market insights, as well as labor market insights in terms of what opportunities are actually out there, or logistics. Yeah, I think that's basically sums up LBS.
I will refer to a micro example and then the macro perspective or the macro view. Matt, you were asking on campus, literally physically. One of the events I prefer during the year is we have a mixer between MBA participants and EMBA participants, and they can practice their enhanced networking skills during that privileged moment. So that's very micro. And then for the macro, it can go in so many directions. Obviously, the international chapters of the alumni, the HEC Paris Alumni Association. We're working hand in hand with the Alumni Association, with our international offices in the US, in Africa, in Asia, and in the rest of Europe, and of course our campus in Doha, Qatar. And I would go a bit further when it comes to networking for business, networking for opportunities, but networking to give back, opportunities to give back. And I'm referring to mentoring opportunities and our ability to scale up mentoring programs across across programs. So right now, for example, we have a very we have a tutoring program for our master's candidates when they pursue an internship during their gap year. And we have in the pool of tutors, we have some MBAs and some EMBA participants. And so it's very important for us to first to tell the EMBA participants that they become part of the alumni family from day one. And then they can receive, but they can give back during their entire life after the EMBA.
Right. I mean, Jean, I mean, if someone says to you, oh, I don't know, I'm already a vice president. I've got this big job title. I've achieved a lot in my career. But at the same time, as we think about global pandemics and supply chains, the impact of artificial intelligence, I mean, it's also ensuring that they sort of keep up with the future of work and the volatility of the economy.
Exactly. Try to always stay in places with smart people in the room. And to finish with mentoring, you're referring to very senior candidates. What we've seen, and we have a very interesting program called reverse mentoring. We call it compagnonnage in French. It's part of one of our centers. And you would really like the fact that the mentors, the very senior mentors, really appreciate giving back and mentor the maybe younger generations, but at the same time, in their current job as VPs or SVPs, they want to learn a lot from the younger generations because new perspectives, because new approaches. And so that's why we call it reverse mentoring. It's mentoring both ways.
Kai, when perhaps people imagine that the classroom is filled with FTSE 100, Fortune 500 companies, or perhaps even women that feel, I don't know, I have nobody around me that went to business school, I've got no sort of female role models about this next step. When you think about diversity, someone running their own business, a woman thinking about investing in their business education, examples that you like to share with them, or just the reality of how they're going to find a voice and really find a place in that EMBA classroom?
It can be very intimidating when you look at a view book of all the profiles before. I find it very interesting. I used to do a lot of executive one-to-one coaching with people on the program, and actually even people with very impressive job titles and very illustrious careers also struggle with a sense of imposter syndrome or about challenges in their own career. So actually, it's a very human experience. I think it's not necessarily about you competing with the other profiles in the room. It's understanding that when you go through the admissions process at LBS, that multiple people in our admissions committee have deemed you to have a contribution in some way to not only the class, but to the world. And so there is some reassurance in that also, but it is a scary place when you think outwards. But we connect, our saying in LBS is we want you to have a profound impact on the world and the way the world does business. And that starts with your relationship with yourself. So having your relationship with yourself determines your relationship with everyone else. And in that process of putting yourself in the furnace in some ways, by stretching outside of your comfort zone, learning new things, seeing the perspective of other people, getting insights through multiple sectors at multiple levels from people that are really key decision makers, I think that starts to shape your thinking. It starts to shape the way you grow, the way you think, and the way you operate. And so whilst it is a little bit of an emotional roller coaster as you find where you fit in, I think when you speak to anyone that's an alumni, I think they're glad for that experience, because that roller coaster also led to the social ties they created on the program. When one person's feeling a little bit unsure, that's when someone else steps in to kind of mentor and help as peers. So you find your feet, and there's also more than one way of holding value. It's not just your job title and your function. We often do an exercise in networking at the beginning of the class. We actually ask them to introduce each other without using their job title, function, or industry, to really get to build sincere relationships based on other values, interests, alignments. So this is really important to us. So I wouldn't, it's impressive, obviously, to be in a room with other people with really good profiles. but it's not the only thing. When we look at holistic value, there's other ways of looking at it. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs starting out. We've got a lot of corporate talent that are also going on to do different things. And when you put those people in the same room, some really interesting magic happens when you're in the class. So that's part of the diversity of you.
You'd mentioned, Kai, before we started recording, that for many, actually, this is the first time that they may have had any form of career coaching, which is probably a very enlightening moment for them as you hold up that mirror.
Without doubt. I think the analogy I like to use is sports. I find it very interesting because in professional sports, every athlete you could think of has a coach, has someone that's on the sideline, giving them perspectives that they can't see. It's not that the coach is better than the athlete, but there is something about being from the perspective of the outside that you can see things and help them see things in themselves. So that analogy really does ring true even in corporate and in our world. So that those conversations in career coaching are very enlightening about finding out what they should be considering, maybe perspective. Sometimes it might be just to get some feedback. Sometimes it's sounding board. Sometimes it's advice. Sometimes it's pure coaching where you're trying to get someone to a conclusion. That might be there as well. But that full spectrum of journey is a very powerful part of their journey, and I think they do really appreciate that on the program.
Yeah, Jean-Emile, we've talked about perhaps an entrepreneur that sees the EMBA as maybe some formal business training as they continue to build and scale their business. But I would also imagine for individuals 10, 15, 20 years into their career, taking stock, looking at their accomplishments, their skills, and again, how you're holding up that mirror to them. Do you find that some of them then use the EMBA as a platform for pursuing their own ventures, maybe starting their own businesses, maybe even with some of the fellow classmates and the network that they're now connected to?
Yeah, in terms of numbers, we have 15% of a class that start their own ventures right after the program, which is, I think, a pretty high percentage given the nature of what we offer. The way to get there, because I think it could be pretty scary. I mean, like any entrepreneurial move, is to be constantly to customize. We were talking about coaching, but to customize the career curriculum that we are offering. By career curriculum, I'm referring to all the workshops, the small group coaching that we are offering. And you were referring to women in particular. It's very important to listen to each cohort. Each cohort is different, comes with different backgrounds, different expectations. And one thing that I really like about what my colleagues do, because they get the credit, is that we renew every year about 40% of our curriculum based on participants' preferences, based on their aspirations, meaning it's tailor-made. It's the very high level of customization. Yes, indeed, during one-to-one career coaching sessions, but also in terms of how we tweak and how we make our curriculum, our workshops evolve to meet exactly the needs of each cohort.
As we look at the job markets and the MBA, a well-established cycle, but Kai, whether for the Slung program, but certainly for the Exec MBA, what do you think employers most appreciate when they see that EMBA degree on somebody's CV resume?
I think it's interesting. I think employers, we get a lot of jobs actually from the Executive MBA program come from the network actually. So people that have reached out to other MBA alumni that have gone on. And I think there is that shared understanding of what you've been through to get to completion that's actually there. And then employers, it also depends on the employer and how they value things. But generally it's that investment in yourself. So a lot of people admire that you've taken some time to invest in yourself and you have a long view on your own career. That I think there's a difference in which the way you turn up, especially for, I guess a good example is why companies come to our campus to recruit or to post jobs with us. Generally, for example, we had Uber before they were very well known. I remember them because they were handing out gift cards of credit just to try and get people to use the app at the time because they're very unwell known, and they became one of our top employers. And the reason was because they're looking at hiring country managers, so people from lots of different countries that can then have the leadership capabilities, have the network, and then the technical know-how and credibility to kind of start a quite challenging but well invested role. So if you imagine how Uber was going to spread across the world and trying to capture that market. So these are really interesting. So I think employers' relationship to LBS is interesting. We also have stakeholders that have gone through the LBS programs and then become hiring managers of their own. But generally, even I think the appreciation of Executive MBA, regardless of the school, shows that someone that's taken the time, made the commitment, the sacrifices needed to invest in themselves. They have improved network. The way they turn up into the world is going to be different. They've gone through and regrounded themselves in really strong principles from accounting, finance, strategy. And that curiosity just brings up a different version of yourself. So I think it's definitely welcome in the eyes of an employer, someone that's done an Executive MBA program.
And in that situation, Jean, I mean, perhaps somebody that's changing sector or employer, but so many, of course, they say, well, I like this sector. I mean, it's a great company that I'm working at. Perhaps for me to reach the next level or to bring in the international component, you must have so many stories of individuals where the Exec MBA has then enabled to them to accelerate or boost their career within the company they're currently at.
Yes, indeed. So the example I have in mind is someone coming from the finance function. So yes, we will encourage anyone coming to HEC Paris for a double or triple jump between sectors, across functions, across geographies. But what we've seen is that some participants go all the way and accomplish those double or triple jumps, but some participants will realize, okay, I wanted to explore. I did my homework, and I realized that the truth is I want to accelerate in my original function. And so this is the story of one of our EMBA graduates from 2020 who found a job at a new company right after his EMBA, but still in the finance function, and became very quickly, was promoted maybe a couple of times, and now reports to the global CFO of a global group. And so he wrote us a nice note saying, and directly to my colleague who is in charge of the curriculum, the career curriculum, saying, thank you so much for everything you put into our coaching sessions and the career curriculum itself. I wouldn't have done it without you. We all know, we all cherish those notes. We know it's the credit goes to them, but it's very rewarding, and I think that's why we are in this line of business.
So when candidates are applying to your schools in the LBS application, Kai, perhaps you ask them to think about where the EMBA fits at this stage in their journey, perhaps the sort of post-EMBA career goals that they might have. And then they arrive in the program, this extraordinary group of diverse, talented individuals and any number of opportunities. So how do you encourage them to think about the application, think about their personal journey and where the EMBA fits in?
I think the key is authenticity. I think it becomes very evident if you're trying to choose someone else's dream. When you've seen as many CVs and applications as we've seen, I think it's about authenticity. It's really, again, that sense of what connects the dots between what you've done and what you want to do. What vision do you have to bring into the world, and how you have your head in the clouds but feet on the ground, I guess, in terms of reality. So we don't want to stifle anyone's ambitions, but we'd like to know that there is a plan, and that's the difference, I guess, between a dream and a plan is seeing how you can execute on it. But we're not harsh either. If you say at your interview at the beginning this is your plan and then your plan changes, that's great, because I think failing fast is I know it's a very American tech sector thing, but it's better for you to get on the right track as quickly as possible. And your best idea before you come in the program might not be your best idea 1 month in. I talked about the emotional journey, and I think it's also because a lot of our candidates are the superstar within their group of friends or within their company, and then they come into a classroom with other people, and then they have to readjust themselves into that new group, and thinking about themselves, and that can really question, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what I thought I was good at, what I realized I was actually better than I thought I was at. And then you've got to think about when your best ideas come. So just because you have this idea now, it might change while you're on the program. And so you might have access to, you might consider job options you never thought about, countries you never thought about, there might be sectors. And so with that options comes a little bit concerning ambiguity, and some people might not like that, but that's a good thing. I think rain, you need rain for things to grow, and I think you need that uncertainty, which also leads to opportunity in some ways as well. So it's definitely a two-sided coin, but that's also the richness of the program, I think, is about like putting yourself in a little bit of uncertainty, having a plan, initial plan that's great, seeing where that takes you, exploring those networks, putting on those threads, really utilizing the networks and the resources available. But then also having that 20% open to, what is that plan Z? And that comes up in interviews. So we ask, what's your plan A, plan B, but what's your plan Z? What would you do if you didn't have to do this current plan? What are things that you would love to put some energy into? And my brain is moving faster than my mouth, so apologies. But very rarely we get an opportunity to invest in ourselves over this time period. So when you do have the opportunity to invest in yourself, you're taking that time out, it's important to explore. It's important not to be rigid and think, oh, I decided I was going to do consulting, banking, startups, management tech, and then rigidly stick to that. That also would be a disservice to the investment you're making in yourself. Actually, this is the time to explore. This is the time to think about things, build your networks, your relationships, explore lots of things you never had a chance to explore before, and then meaningfully create that plan interaction. And that's why that gap between the personal journey and then working with the career center, working with mentors, or working with your peer group, that's where those stories start to emerge when people do that.
Well, I can reassure you, Kai, with all of those thoughts in your head, certainly the inspiring words that you're sharing, it's wonderful to be able to capture this. And I think you've also enabled me to come full circle with Jean-Amiel, and where we started, Jean-Amiel, in terms of unlocking a world of opportunities. Now, Kai talked about, navigating uncertainties. It will rain, but that helps things to grow. As you reflect on generations now of graduates from the HEC Paris MBA program, and they come back to you, I'm now reporting to the global CFO of a multinational, where do they come back in terms of this sense of life purpose? That they've been through the experience, and with reflection, it's like the things I've learned about myself, the doors that it's opened. How do they then sort of capture and share with you this idea of life purpose?
I think it's these two things here. I would say change management, ability to conduct change. And when you were asking before what the employers are looking for, I think that would be the key component, that ability to conduct change, because of all the disruptions we're facing, we need these people. We need these people at the helm of our organizations. And the second is, I think Kai was hinting to being open-minded and curious, and it's the notion of random meetings and the serendipity of our lives. Because yes, these people might have a plan, and we were curious to know their plan A, maybe their plan B, but to appreciate the fact that you can be humble and you can say, I want to explore. And I would have, for example, the feedback going for full circle, the person would say, I wouldn't have imagined being where I am now. And that's when the unlocking of a world of opportunities, we love that unlocking a world of opportunities, because one may think automatically we're referring to the market, but I think the first notion we wanted to convey with unlocking a world of opportunities is the inner side of, wow, if I take the time to think about where I want to go, my values, etc., I may unlock a world of opportunities from within to start with, and then I can go to the market and see and meet new people and go to new markets. But it starts from within.
Yeah, you're both two wonderful ambassadors for your schools, for your programs, capturing the experience of your students and graduates. Perhaps one final question. With all of the enthusiasm that you've shared, our viewers will want to know more. So next steps at both of your schools, connecting with your teams, perhaps with alumni of the program. Kai, where can they reach out with you?
So there's multiple touch points that you can connect with London Business School. We have Regularly, we have staff flying all over the world to meet people in their domicile countries. So keep an eye on our social media, and you can book a coffee chat across programs. So, you can meet many of our different members of our staff, our career center, and have a conversation. Downloading the brochure is the initial start, I think, for you to kind of get a sense of what things are. And then, and don't be frightened to have an exploratory call. I think people get quite nervous about starting an application. I think they think that there might be signing their life away, or not sure. That imposter syndrome kicks in very early. I think it's about having exploratory calls with our team, and we have a very good team that are not going to be trying to push you a product or make you sign or sell anything. That's not our style at all. I'm sure not Jean and my style either. It's a chance of us having an exploratory conversation of where does this fit, and it comes back to you plus the program equals what ? And then from there, you're more than welcome to kind of connect with alumni. Many of our prospects, they bring up LinkedIn, they look up London Business School, they go to the alumni section, they filter for their industry, for their function, and then you can see how pervasive LBS is within your space. And therefore, we invite you to kind of reach out to those alumni and say, I'm thinking of doing the program. Would you mind sharing your experience? You can even go a step further. If you're looking at transitioning, you can see people that have moved sector in a similar way. If you're an entrepreneur, you can find people that have done stuff. So we encourage. I think our alumni are testament to the school's journey, and I think they'll be very sincere in telling you the pros and cons of their journey and what could be suitable. So the touch points are: think about having conversations with staff in coffee chats in person. You can have consultations with us as well to explore your relevancy for the program and how it fits in. We can have very open conversations around scholarships, funding, logistics, and then also you can reach out to alumni. I would say action creates information. So whether this is for you or not for you, start. At least get that ball rolling. You never know what this might inspire, this cascade of events that might happen in your mind that might realize that push you in a direction either way, either it's for you or not for you, or a short course or another school, whatever that is. I think action creates information. So I encourage, advise everyone here today listening to this recording or live on the call, just to think about how can you have that initial first small step, and then build up your knowledge and make a decision after that.
No doubt, very personalized, lots of high touch points at HEC Paris too. Jean-Manuel, talk about some of those different options.
Yeah, the same. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of that first call. We were talking about imposter syndrome, and the feedback of the CFO that I was referring to before is how he communicated us the fact that after the program, or that imposter syndrome was maybe still a little bit there, I think, which is always good, but not at the level of what maybe he was experiencing when he decided to apply. So yeah, the touch point, the high quality touch points, very customized. That first call is very important. And one example that my colleagues from admissions shared with me is questions about, I want to do a double jump and I want to move to, for example, the example I have in mind was, I want to move to New York and I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And the answer has to be, of course, featuring the advantages and the benefits of the program, but we want to, and I think Kai will agree with me, we want to be pragmatic and we want to be honest about what we can deliver and what we don't have enough data or enough. It will depend on so many factors, including the investment of the actual the participant himself or herself. So during that exchange, during that very high quality touch point, to be clear about what your expectations are, and if it's a great fit, awesome, and everybody, it will be a win-win. But if there are things that we cannot actually guarantee anything in terms of outcomes, we will be ready to say it, and we'll say, well, that could happen, but maybe you should think about it twice. And I think it's a very good level of exchange and open communication, because at the end of the day, we want you to succeed.
Well, I again appreciate your candor, your openness, enthusiasm. You know, we are talking about a transformational experience at both of your schools, and to have been able to spend this time with you to talk through all of that. Our viewers that might be now catching this later on YouTube or another channel, but a great way to start the Central EMBA Festival. So Kai, Jean-Amiel, thank you, both of you, for joining us, and I'm sure those viewers will be reaching out. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Matt.